and welcome to the Hybrid School Builders Podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Foley, and I am so glad you are joining me today. I am a fellow grassroots founder who is hoping to make your journey toward founding a sustainable hybrid school a little bit easier. If you are dreaming of starting a hybrid school, or perhaps you've already gotten started, you are in the right place. Join me as we dive into real stories, practical tips, and hard-won lessons that I have learned to help you launch and grow your program with confidence. Remember, building a hybrid school is not just about creating a business or creating jobs. It's not even about just serving the children who attend the program. It's literally about reshaping the landscape of education, and we can do that one community, one entrepreneur, and one program at a time. Hey guys, so before I get into some more of the practical details about finances and opening a bank account and filling out your paperwork and infrastructure and hiring and interviewing and all of that, I wanted to talk a little bit about marketing. And I am not a marketing expert or a graphic design expert or anything like that, but you need students for your school. So I just kind of wanted to review how that process should progress and what I think have been the most effective methods of reaching students. Okay, so if you back up to like your prep phase, I highly advise that you start with conversations and some market research. Chances are pretty good that you started this because maybe you had a need or you are talking to other people who had a need. And so that's kind of your core beginning group when you see a need like that in one or more people, especially if you see it in several people. It's usually just a matter of awareness, and there will be other people who also have the need. If you start with having some informational meetings, which you can do by word of mouth, you can do through Facebook groups, you can do, I'm not actually up on the other social media groups, but if you know how to do those, hang out where your people hang out. A lot of times they're in homeschool groups. It could be in churches, could be in nature groups, could be in preschools. Okay, so find where your people hang out and figure out some way to put yourself in front of them. You could do a booth at a fair. You could do, or a community sort of carnival or something like that, where you just have some brochures and some, maybe a little sign or something that just lets people stop by and talk to you about who you are and what you do. Now, some of the infrastructure, like really basic infrastructure that you need before or at least while you're doing this, is a way to collect people's information and somewhere to send them, okay? And again, this is why I really advise working on your infrastructure, at least the basic parts, like a website and a form, early on, so you have somewhere to like capture those people. You could do an email. You could just do an email list, collect their emails and just keep them updated. But if you have just a basic website that has your name, make sure you have to have a name. That's like branding number one, right? You have to have a name so people don't know who you are. It's very helpful if you are also have already filled out your paperwork with the state so that you can say that you're truly a business, right? But you have to have a name. I'm really not an expert on this kind of thing. In fact, I'm pretty bad at it. But you might want a logo and like a font or a color or something like that like you just start using. Apparently, that's marketing advice from what I've read. And I'm like, oh, this is overwhelming. I don't want to think about this. But, you might want to have a logo, a name, and maybe like a consistent font or a color or something to use. Anyway, that's just the kind of stuff you're going to put on like your brochure or a little business card or whatever. Okay, so you have your name, you have a little bit of a look, right? And it doesn't have to be complicated, just consistent, okay? And your business. Now you put yourself in front of people, either physically or through the internet. You have a website that you can send people to, even if it's very, very simple. And you integrate some sort of form on your website as well as a physical form if you're ever meeting people in person where you can collect their email addresses, like just a piece of paper, your name, your address, maybe, where they live and their child's ages or something, where you can just hand them a clipboard and say, hey, you can get emailing updates if you fill this out, like if you're at a fair or something. Okay. So put yourself in front of people that way. Now, social media from what I have seen in other groups of people doing this and recruiting students, and our experience was having a website and having a Facebook presence was pretty effective, especially if it was a Facebook presence in homeschool groups, because homeschoolers are often the people that you are serving in the sense that you're offering a supplemental program for homeschoolers. And even if the reason I'm hesitating a second is because once we started growing and we had a bit of a, I don't know, I guess a reputation, like people knew we existed, there was a lot of word of mouth. And it only took a couple, like maybe 2 years, where for the most part, once we maintained a little bit of a Facebook presence and we had a website and did some like info nights and stuff every year, people were hearing about us through word of mouth a lot of times and through Facebook. Okay, those were probably the two biggest places where we had traction. To finish that thought, I ended up seeing people who had very young kids and they probably weren't in homeschool groups yet. But when we started, that's where we started because that was our initial market. And then we started picking up kids from other places. Also, if people are very discontented with where they're at, sometimes homeschooling is the first thing they start thinking about, even if they don't. They're like maybe afraid to do it, or they haven't pulled their kids out of school yet or something. Sometimes they will join a Facebook homeschool group or something so they can ask questions, figure out what's out there and see if there's any co-ops or whatever, if they're just thinking about it. Okay, so that's a good place to be. Now, those are really like my most basic recommendations as far as marketing. You also will want to have like something just to hand people. And, you can use Canva. You can use, I think we used Vistaprint. I remembered the name if you listen to the other episode where I couldn't remember. But this was like 9 years ago. And I don't think I even knew how to use Canva at the time. And Vistaprint was, you could like design a little brochure and then they would like print a bunch of them for you. And, there's different ways to get that done. Again, you can go to like Upwork or something and get someone to throw something together for you, probably fairly affordably, just like a brochure or even just a digital image that you can share that looks pretty. Of course, AI is taking off right now and you can do stuff on Canva or with AI that's pretty simple for free. If you don't feel confident, get someone else to do it. We did not hire out professionals. We never hired a marketing person in our first years, and we still grew like crazy because of word of mouth and building a reputation over the course of a few years. But we did always try to keep a website updated and keep a Facebook presence. And then we also, once we had a location and a consistent, like something to show, we would do like an informational night. And eventually that evolved into like tours and interviews for new families where they could actually come on a school day. And I'd walk them around the building for 20 minutes or whatever. I'd give them a little spiel about the program. But again, they're not going to show up if they haven't heard of you. So that gets into more of the admissions process. But having like an informational night or an open house sort of thing where you can like advertise a particular event, come and find out more about us, or come and ask your questions, or come see our program in action, like that kind of thing helps. It gives you something to put out there that kind of funnels people to a particular event where you can then like gather their email addresses. You can also like send out a newsletter. If you're just getting started, you can just send out updates about where you're at in the process just to keep in touch with people, help build trust. So they're not just like, oh yeah, I filled out that form that one time and then I never heard from the person again. I don't know if they ever got things off the ground, which sometimes that can happen, but it helps you build their support of you and trust in your like professionalism. If you just keep them up to date, like here's where we're at, maybe you're still looking for a building, maybe you're, going to be hiring, and you've got like a group of people who are kind of rallying behind you, especially when you're first getting started. And it might only be like 6 people, right? It might only be 6 families. Our first informational meeting we had like 15 people, but we didn't know we were going to have that many people. And then, it grew from there, but it was just a little core group of people in the beginning. But that's what it starts with. And if there's a need for it and you're being professional and keeping everything going, it probably will grow. Okay. So just a couple more tips on if you have a brochure or whatever, besides the Facebook homeschool groups, we also sent out things to Vacation Bible Schools, our Christian program. So Vacation Bible Schools, which are hosted at churches in the summer. And I don't think we did summer camps, but that's also a good place. I don't know if we thought of that. And preschools that were hosted at churches also in the area. Like some of our families, including our family, had children in preschools. Like we had a couple friends who had kids in different preschools in town. They took some brochures and just handed them out or put them in cubbies at the preschool. We sent some to another church that ended up, we have a family who's been with us from day one who came through the preschool. And we actually ended up at the preschool's building eventually, at that preschool's building, oddly enough. So anyway, we just kind of like build those connections. So VBSs, Vacation Bible Schools, summer camps, at preschools, libraries, fairs, festivals, and Facebook homeschool groups are my top recommendations. And again, if there's other social media groups like that, join those too. I just don't know about anything except Facebook because I'm never jumped on the bandwagon for any of the other ones. Okay, so those are just some marketing tips, and hopefully that is helpful. Again, this is step one of the admissions process. I'll be talking a little bit more about the admissions process later on, but that's the first part, is to bring awareness to your existence and build trust with the people in your community before you are able to admit them. Thanks so much for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure you check out the resources I am developing at startahybridSchool.com. Send me an email anytime. I would love to hear from you. Until next time.